Hey everybody, Danny from Posh Guitar Player. Thank you for tuning in. I wanted to queue up this video because it's a little bit outside of the normal guitar tutorials that I post on the channel. I couldn't resist the temptation to celebrate the fact that Rush is back on tour. I'm a lifelong fan of the band, and in particular, the playing of Alex Lifeson. One of my favorite songs is off their record Hemispheres, which is their epic song, Villa Strangiato. I learned it as a teenager, but about 4 or 5 years ago, I circled back and I decided I really wanted to dig back in and relearn the song. I dug in, I was very meticulous. I tried to learn all of Alex Lifeson's cool parts, and I filmed it, and I also recorded it onto Logic so that I could hear it back myself playing along with the record. I also had some moments in there where I talked a little bit about the band Rush, a little bit about some of the techniques used in La Villa Strangiato, some of the odd time signatures, and also just celebrating the fact that it's such an amazing piece. I also, in the video, poke a little bit of fun at the culture of the prog rock fan. When I was a teenager, I was absolutely guilty of being sort of a know-it-all prog rock kid, and I sort of have some moments in the video where I make fun of that. If you are interested in any of these pieces, I would encourage you to watch the whole thing. If you're mainly interested in the playthrough at the end, you can zoom to the very end. But all of this is to celebrate the fact that Rush is back on tour. I have my tickets. I hope you get a chance to go check them out. I hope you enjoyed the video. And here's to Rush in many years to come. Thanks, guys. Hey everybody, this video is a story about an unexpected musical pilgrimage I recently embarked on that took me back over 40 years ago to my formative years of playing guitar. If you were a kid growing up in the late 70s learning to play guitar, one of your favorite bands, without a doubt, would have been Rush. Who is Rush? Rush is made up of 3 Canadian superhero genius musicians by the names of Geddy Lee, Neil Peart, and guitar wizard Mr. Alex Lifeson. Wait a minute. What was the drummer's name again? Neil Peart? How do you pronounce that?
Ear with a P in front of it and a T at the end. Peart.
Rush had an extremely long and successful career, starting in the late 60s all the way until just recently in the late 2000s. But we want to zero in and focus on their career in the late 70s, specifically the year of 1978 when this record was released, Hemispheres. Of course, Rush is what we call a prog rock band, or progressive rock, meaning that they were taking liberties with arrangements and long instrumental interludes and very heady themes and arrangements in their songs. And if you were a kid in the 70s, prog rock was not the hip and cool thing to like. But of course, if you were a geeky guitar player, you loved it.
Really? You don't like prog rock? My feeling is it's cool. If you don't like prog rock, it's probably because you just don't understand music very well, because all the great musicians like prog rock, like Steve Howe, Steve Hackett, and of course Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson, they're probably musicians like none other in the world. So for me, if you don't like prog rock, then you're just missing on the good music, the people who know.
Some of the titles on the Hemisphere record included
2 songs on each side, which of course included Cygnus X1, Book 2, Hemispheres, followed by Circumstances, and then you flip the album over, and of course the classical masterpiece, Trees, and then of course the classic, spectacular masterpiece for Rush,
La Villa Strangiato. So when La Villa Strangiato was released, it became the new holy grail for guitar players. Everybody wanted to learn how to play it.
That one kind of slow, open soul that Alex plays, the way he built that up had a huge impression on me because he was creating a mood by playing very, very sparsely and just slowly amping up the intensity. I just thought that was the greatest thing in terms of lead guitar dynamics and phrasing. I see them as the high priests of conceptual metal. Big influence. Huge.
Rush is just one of those bands that has a deep reservoir of rocket sauce. A lot of bands, they've only got so much in the bottle. They use it up sometimes in one song. These guys were the real deal. Their bottle was so big and so filled to the brim. They were shaking it literally for decades, and still there was sauce coming out.
And I was no exception. I dug in there and did my very best to try to learn it. Back in those days, you had to earn it to learn it, meaning you had to take the record out, move the needle back and forth and listen to it over and over. There was no tablature, there was no music, and certainly no amazing YouTube videos to help you along. There's a couple of really cool things in the Rush song that I wanted to highlight. One is odd time signatures. So what is an odd time signature? If you think about odd and even numbers, most of music is broken up, as we know, into groups of 2s or 4s or 6s or 8s or even numbers. So if you have an odd time signature, that means that it's just counting an odd number of beats. A lot of times in prog rock, they took full advantage of that, and they really like to do stuff in odd time signatures as a challenge and as a way to kind of expand their musicality. So you might see things in 5/4 or 7/8 or 11/16. In the Rush song, they make full use of the 7/8 time signature. Here's an example. If you were to count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is reminiscent of another famous use of an odd time signature. The band King Crimson would use it all of the time. This is a song called Frame by Frame. Since we mentioned King Crimson, that leads us to a shameless rock history plug. In my early 20s, I was very fortunate to study with Robert Fripp, the legendary guitarist from King Crimson, and I was part of his outfit called the League of Crafty Guitarists and played on the record League of Crafty Guitarists Live. Another super cool feature in the Rush song and many other songs is the use of a volume pedal to create what is called a volume swell. A pedal like this can be used, and you plug your guitar into this, and then the other end goes to the amp, and with the pedal that you can work with your foot, it allows it so that you can have the volume sort of swell in. Let's use the Rush song as an example, like that line which is that's without the volume swell. With the pedal it will sound like quick note on how I approached the song. I wanted to try to do my very best job of replicating Alex Lifeson's awesome guitar playing, but it's very difficult to exactly copy anybody. Think of it as trying to say the words that somebody has said. You can repeat the words, but you'll never get the phrasing, the timing, or the tone that that person has in their voice. I started by loading the song into Logic Pro and then working very carefully to try to match Alex's exact timing, tone, and feeling, and worked with overdubs with the classical guitar and the various picking. And I wanted it so that you could definitely hear what Alex was doing and also hear how I was trying to match it. So you can always hear the differences in the guitars.
Of course I like prog rock. I mean, what do you expect? You don't need more than 4 songs. You know, all the great musicians play prog rock. If you don't like prog rock, I mean, that's fine. I mean, it's up to you. But if you don't like good music, he plays like the diminished scale. If you don't like musicians who can play their instruments, but like Alex Lifeson, he knows guitar. Of course, Steve Hackett, Geddy Lee, and for me, it's about Genesis or experts of classical music. Steve Howe, of course, Alex Lifeson. Before Phil Collins left, Peter Gabriel, and then you got like Steve Lukather from Toto. Actually, I don't like Steve Lukather, but and then of course Rush's masterpiece, the classic, the epic, the classic masterpiece for Rush, La Villa Strangiato.